inside look of a hydronic system. Basically, this is a typical system where we've got an expansion tank. Pumping away from the expansion tank is the system pump. Going through the supply, down through our two different circuits. This is actually a throughway valve. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it so it blocks off from the spirotherm air separation device. In this particular system right now, we have it filled with clear water. A typical hydronic heating system can contain three different types of air in a system. The first one is free air, and that's the air might be contained at high points in the system that you can manually bleed out. The next type of air is going to be your entrained air, and that's the air that flows with the water itself. The third type of air is dissolved air, and that's the air that the fish breathe. You can't actually see it, but it's there. And air does a couple different things to this system. Decreases your heat transfer because air is actually an insulator. Decreases your pumping efficiency and your heat, and also your heat transfer within the system itself. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and inject a little air into the system, and immediately you can see what actually happens. The system becomes very noisy. The velocity of the water is erratic, and there's also a lot less decrease in heat transfer itself. Go ahead and let that circulate for a minute, and you can actually see some free air bubbles sitting here at the top of the system now. You can see your entrained air, and again you have the dissolved air, the air that you can't see. You can see how much just a little bit of air in the system can actually really change the velocity. It's increasing, decreasing until it gets clearly mixed to an even state within the system itself. We can actually add so much air into the system that I can almost airlock the system. And then we start getting some free air sitting here at the top of your high points within the system itself. Basically, if you can look here, this is air actually trapped within the system itself right now. Now we're going to go ahead and open this valve up, actually force some of the air through the system itself, through the air separator. Right now we've got such a big air blockage in here that we're actually not getting air. Before I go ahead and start forcing that through there, I'll show you one other thing that affects system. Right now our system pressure is set at 0 pounds of pressure. I'm actually going to take the fitting off here that we have going into the system, inject air in. I'm going to go to the expansion tank. Right now our pressure of the expansion tank is 0 pounds of pressure. So I'll go ahead and actually inject a little bit more air into the top of the expansion tank, start compressing it, and just add a little bit more pressure into the system. Okay, there's about 10 pounds of pressure in the system. This all of a sudden, without eliminating the air out of the system, we've actually increased the velocity of water because we're actually compressing the air bubbles itself within the system, therefore creating a little bit more flow. Still, the air, actually all the air is still there at this point in time. So increasing your pressure in the system will definitely increase your system flow within the system because you're compressing those air bubbles, but they're still there. I'll go ahead and close this bypass valve off now, force the air through it, and as you can clearly see, we're starting to get air bubbles to migrate through the spirotherm air separator and up and out. I'll go ahead and leave that pressure in there, actually inject a little bit more air into the system. Quickly you can see how fast the air is actually being removed from the system. See the actual air coming out of the air vent built on top of the spirotherm air separator. A little air trapped down here at the bottom. I'll go ahead and open that up. Actually flush that out. Now we're actually showing a typical spirotherm air and dirt separator. So while we're waiting for it to take care of some of the air within the system, I'm going to go ahead and dump a little dirt in the system. There's actually dirt laying in the bottom of this dirt separator. Now it's just gently actually going into the bottom of this pipe. Okay, that's pretty much all the air. I'll go ahead and close this valve off so we actually just pump the dirt through the system itself. Now you've got a picture of an inside look of a typical hydronic heating system. A little dirt and a little air. And currently we're actually running about 12 pounds of pressure. If I was to actually take some of the pressure out of the system and actually see the bubbles actually get much larger into the system, where we're actually almost slowing down the flow to nothing within the system itself. And take the rest of the air out of the system. And now we've almost stopped it. Now, again, watch the air bubbles here at the top being released, and watch also the dirt coming out of the air separator itself. We'll start forcing it through the air separator. You can see the dirt falling out, micro air bubbles coming up through the spirotherm air vent. And very quickly we're taking most of the air, as far as the free air, out of the system. Most of the entrained air. It's not going to do it all on the first pass. It will take several passes in order to do that. We've got a little dirt and air still left down here at the bottom. I'll go ahead and just flush it out. So you can see how quick the dirt's still falling out of the system. Actually, I'm flowing through both the bypass and through the air separator at this point in time. You can see we've gotten most of the dirt out of the system already. Most of the free air is gone. There's no more free air sitting at the top. We've actually absorbed that air into the system. Your entrained air is basically eliminated out of the system. And again, this was just with pure water within the system itself. Now, you have seen the previous presentation of water being in a hydronic system. Now let's take an inside look at how glycol affects a system when air is contained within the system itself. Again, we've got our closed loop system. This is simulating our expansion tank. We'll go ahead and drop the pressure back down to a little bit lower pressure. And we'll also look at it with a little bit higher pressure, how it affects it as well. Basically, we're going through the spirotherm. Initial startup, I've very well got most of the air out of the system as far as the free air and the untrained air. We'll go ahead and shut off the bypass. And we can also notice your amp draw on the system as well. A little bit higher with the glycol system than it was with the air system. Okay, so basically we'll go ahead and pump about the same amount of air. It was basically one pump full of air. Now we'll take a look at the system. And one thing we can really see, you don't have the big air bubbles anymore. The glycol is actually changed to a foam state. And basically, the system doesn't sound that bad compared to the water system, where you can't really hear the air going through the pump. But you can see the foam is really just pure foam. And foam is really a true insulator within the system itself. Really cuts back on the heat transfer within the system. Although it doesn't sound bad, you can actually see that it's just completely full. We haven't gone through our air separator at all. We're actually got that 3 valve blocked off, and we're actually going just basically around the outer loop, going around the system. You can see here the glycol is still nice and clear. Now, basically, I want to go ahead and do a little timing, and I'm going to come back later on, and we'll take a look at the system after it's been in there a while. Now we've got pressure in here. We're up to around 5 pounds of pressure with the air in the system, and it's not too bad. We can actually take and pressurize it to even a little bit higher pressure and see what effect that has on the system. Again, we're running about 4.66, and all the thing we're doing here is when we pressurize the system, we're just actually compressing the foam bubbles. And it's probably pretty hard for you to see here in this demonstration, but actually our velocity has picked up because we're actually compressing the foam bubbles within the system itself. And now we're up to around 10 pounds of pressure. And it actually has helped it somewhat. Now we'll go ahead and go through the air separator. And before, if you notice the water system, we would take the air bubbles out as far as all the free air and the entrained air out in a matter of a couple minutes. We'll go ahead and look at this demonstration, and I'll come back in about a half an hour. As you can see, the foam is starting to collect within the air separator itself. Put a little bit more foam out since I've compressed that so much. I'm going to lower down the pressure just a little bit. I'll see you in about a half an hour.